Video. Thank you. Thank you.
How's it going over there, man? Your colors are
That's
popping.
pretty. Yeah, are they? Oh, wow. All
Yeah,
right.
man.
Yes. It's a poppin' morning. Poppin' fresh.
I'm making tea. I've gotten so many tea. Like my birthday, my birthday's still going. I mean, you're taking me to dumplings for my birthday.
Damn.
This birthday has been epic.
Nice. That's
Can
wonderful.
can I tell you about the amazing gifts that I got?
Oh yeah, please.
Okay. Oh wait, hold on. Have you seen the one Zach got me?
Huh.
Hold on. You don't buy me no chump sword. You know what I mean? So yeah. But
Chump
on it, let me see
sword.
if
Ooh.
yeah.
Breathe. Relax. Structure. Motion.
Yeah. He basically engraved like a legit Persian shamshir. Like a lot of people don't know that like the broadsword, it's kind of a Persian thing. You know, they had the shamshir and
Yeah.
then the Chinese kind of, I guess, weighted the end a little bit more. And yeah, but he got me, so he gets me this legit sword. I sprung, did a
That's amazing.
got the Jeep, you know, so I
Mm-hmm.
got the Jeep, so
Mm-hmm.
the gift that keeps on giving. Sweet new
Mm-hmm.
washer and dryer.
What? You got a
Yeah,
washer and dryer for your
yeah.
birthday?
Front loader.
Wow.
Lots of tea and
Tea is always an excellent gift.
sweaters. Yeah, it's been a dumplings. Yeah, it's been a good birthday. 45 is legit. I can't wait till I turn 100.
Yeah.
You have any idea how
Yeah.
big the Jeep's gonna be? Flying monster Jeep.
I'll need a Jeep to get into the Jeep.
So
Well,
cheers.
happy birthday to Matt Lucas and
Oh man,
cheers
this
to
has
the
been a
Dragon Moon.
yeah, and I'm a dragon coming into a dragon moon. We're leaving Rabbit, and
Yeah.
that ends what day?
April 11th,
Okay.
and then the first day of the Dragon Moon is the 12th.
Okay, so and then from April 12th to roughly what, May
What?
10th?
I guess May 11th and May 10th,
Okay,
11th, something
will
like that.
be
Yeah.
dragon moon.
Will be the Dragon
Okay,
Moon.
and we are in an ox year.
I've been thinking about like how to try to talk about Dragon, and it's like impossible. It's just like
Mhm.
so much, to talk. And so I think it's kind of good to go slow. Oh crap!
What happened?
I'm
Hey,
sorry.
no problem.
Somebody called me.
Oh, okay.
My bad.
Yeah. Oh, can I say something? So we are a part of nature, no matter how technologically advanced we are, no matter how many beep boop things I have in my ear and cameras and whatever. This is nature. Nature made this.
That's correct.
Um, and so I'm going back into training people kind of. I'm doing a lot more like private Zoom stuff. I've
Hmm.
been
Hmm.
working with some coaches and all these other things, but the one thing that
Yeah.
kind of is messing with people is the mentality where I think we need to honor this for a second, which is the idea that in order to market what people do, like the common rhetoric is find a problem, offer a solution, right? That's kind of it. But when we're doing something like this, which is a service, which is kind of trying to reconnect people a little bit, trying to get them to put one foot in the pool of nature and then one foot in the pool of like modern society.
Okay.
Um, don't we? I think we need to take a second to not fool ourselves and let people understand that nature doesn't have problems. Nature makes small corrections. And
Okay.
it's been really interesting because now that I've been back training people, I've been sort of removed from people for a little while. I mean, because
Mm.
people bombarded me with so many problems, asking me to like, I'm in crisis.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
do I do?
Ah.
And then I'd always be like, technically, there's no such thing as problems. I mean, there's problems for you, but like it could be someone else's best day. You know what I mean? So, every now and then when a deer is getting eaten butthole first by a pack of wolves, that deer is like, I have a problem. And then the wolves are like, this is sweet.
This is the
This
best
is
day
the
of my
best day.
life.
Yeah. And when winter's coming and we're sitting there and I have some friends that are just like skinny people like me and we're just like, oh my God, it's so cold. And then there's a bunch
Mm.
of other people just skiing. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Hmm. Hmm.
so it's
Can't
winter,
wait
then
to
it's
get
summer.
outside. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So, with that, it's like, people can feel cooped up and all these other things, but I'm starting training people again. You're doing your work again, but it really
Yes.
needs to come down to we just hopefully can start the ball rolling with allowing people to feel the small corrections we need to make in order to kind of achieve balance. And the faster you're running and is the harder it is to change directions and achieve balance. So
True,
that's kind
true,
of
true,
my
true. Or
thing.
even the more that you're carrying, like
Hmm.
it's hard to turn something that's very big,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
can't really like you can't turn the Titanic on a dime, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't
Yeah.
doesn't handle that way. And that's actually some of the things that are something to consider in
Hmm.
the ox year, because we are leaning on convention. And so if we're expecting the conventions that we've built up over a lifetime to turn on a dime, like
Yeah.
when they talk, you have ideas like about habits, like how to develop a new habit, how long it takes to develop a new habit, how long it takes to change actual behavior, is a commitment, and it takes a while to actually go through that. The one
Hmm.
thing you said about nature is that Ming was always talking about the idea that the very real reality is that we are nature,
Yeah.
and your earbuds, this technology, this is all very much nature.
Hmm.
Everything that we're doing because we are a part of nature. Whether or not that's, we have an idea of like nature is always being in balance, but it kind of depends on the scope you're looking at. Because
Yeah.
like you could have like, when you think about wolves and rabbits in the Arctic, like, right? So there's an abundance of rabbits, and then come the wolves or the lynx. They'll like appear in a certain area that they're normally not there
Hmm.
until the rabbits are gone, and then they take off, right? So like, from one perspective, there's like too many rabbits. Another perspective, there's too many lynx, right? So, but like through the course, like everything tends to balance out. But it's a little bit, there's a little bit of a romanticism that comes in the Western mind when it comes to now to like nature, because my contention is it's a little bit like a substitution theory. So
Yeah.
instead of God, we have nature,
Yeah.
and like somehow nature is always going to make sure that balance is restored. Like, yeah, but it could take a fucking hurricane, like to actually
Right.
make that happen. And that's something to consider, is that like Ming has often said, like nature doesn't care if you get what you want. It
Okay.
doesn't
So
work like that.
this is something I tell people all the time about, like in the term medicine for me has always been like an intervention into a system in order to kind of help guide some sort of change, right? That's kind
Okay.
of all it
Okay.
is. And so we want to ask ourselves, and this is one of the reasons why when I'm working with this guy on like body work and stuff like that, and it's like if you can do the work to help what I'm doing move it forward, I have to intervene less, right? So it's kind of like
True.
and
Yeah.
so if your life acts as a stewardship to your goals, then when there is an intervention, it's kind of like what I was doing
That
with the
enables it, pushes it along. Yeah.
yeah, that whole situational mindfulness course that I did. The whole first couple courses is about upstream thought, and I would say change your oil, and then when you take care of your car, when you bring it to the shop, they're like, oh yeah, everything's clean. They're not spending a lot of time on doing it. But then when your car's on fire and you haven't changed your oil, you don't drive it to the Jiffy Lube and be like, you need a bigger intervention.
Right.
And that's super important to I think to see whenever if there is an extreme correction, such as like whether it's a war or a fist fight or vomiting, there could be a
Uh-huh.
bigger like we could have let things fall a little further out of balance, so we need a little bit more extreme of an intervention. This is
That is one way. That's possibly one way to look at it.
yeah.
Like, especially, I mean, where the way we operate as an expression of nature is this, what we've been, how humans came out, right?
Hmm.
Is this 10,000 year period of relative stability where we could actually produce agriculture. And then from
Yeah.
agriculture, we get to produce culture, right? So all part of this is like actually how we manage and control resources and stay in
Hmm.
dialogue with nature. Even the cosmology that I'm working with here is very much rooted in that, in this kind
Hmm.
of give and take, in this sense of self-cultivation necessary to recognize how we best interface with our current
Yeah.
situation, whether it be planting crops or working in a group or making big decisions or even small ones in our lives. Like, so it's a multifaceted, even multidimensional, from the cosmology of the Tongshu,
Hmm.
very much multidimensional, ancestrally place, There's a lot of different influences that are occurring, but from a Confucian standpoint, what matters most is always your own behavior and your own self-cultivation. And the second moon is that kind of step back time where okay, so something's happening, things are moving, we're slowly escaping from yin, where everything tends to be stuck in one place. And we've gone through the equinox period, and we've now stepped out of the equinox period into Qingming, which is the big celebratory. Yang has fully escaped yin. So we've gone from they're on equal footing now to like Yang has the slight upper hand. And so we're currently in that period now, and will actually take us into the Dragon Moon, where we'll go into a couple other chi nodes through the Dragon Moon. But essentially, it's like Yang is now like the big player. Not the big player. It's this still like adolescent, but even adolescents can drive cars and make decisions, right? So they're not fully mature, definitely not fully mature, but headed in the right direction, still needing guidance. But it's a time right now, time for being busy and feeling a little bit of pride, kind of feeling, a little full of yourself. And it's like good to actually feel that. At the same time, to be in that kind of self-reflection and developing of trust and understanding of mutuality. There's a couple things. The first thing is to talk about, like, if we're going to talk about the Dragon Moon, it's important to revisit, I think, the priorities of the ox year, like to reorient. Remember, okay, because it's really easy to get caught up in like, oh, this moon means this or whatever, but we're still in the context of this year, right? And so what are some of those things we said about the ox year? Like, tend to the tree, not to the fruit, right? Like, keep yourself focused on the right priorities instead of results. And think of it as the integrity of how you're tending to the actual tree and caring for it. So with that goes like more of a slow and steady kind of approach. There's no quick fix in an ox year, right? It's really about the things that last are the things that you do in this kind of slow and steady, even monotonous kind of way, right? And then with that, ultimately comes a sense of thoroughness, that we began something, we went through our middle stages, and now we come to a sense of completion. We put a bow on it, like that kind of slowness then results in that sense of thoroughness that's available in the ox year, and there's actually a major priority, So those sorts of principles in our approach, I think, will greatly, if we remember those things going into the Dragon Moon, it would be a good idea, because this is a water dragon moon. It's a dragon itself is natively Earth, and essentially we're kind of dragons are considered sort of this mystical ruling power of unknown origin, and speaks to this kind of heaven knows how it happens, like the sense of synthesis or integrity, and the sense of integrity of how things actually work. The important thing to think about when it comes to the third moon is that we are now beginning to advance and herald. The dragon is like the herald of the power of summer, because by the end of this moon, we will have technically begun summer. And so this is, generally speaking, in the year, a dragon moon, the third moon, is sort of a transition moon. So it's the transition from spring, where we're like making all these plans and we're kind of developing our patterns of trust and mutuality and that kind of self-cultivation, trying things, trying this other thing, re-strategizing, stepping back, all that kind of like trial and error kind of stuff still happening, but that's primarily the time when we're doing it. And then as we go into the third moon, we're basically cultivating authority, actually, like actual authority. So how we conducted ourselves in spring really, really matters. It's pretty crucial, in the ways that the things that we fostered. Not like results, not like that I have these candidates even. It's just about the approach we take, how we actually go about things. Are we inclusive? Are we, is it just I get mine and screw everybody else? Like, can it be cooperative? Can you actually be open to feedback and learning and like actually expanding the benefit beyond your own concerns? Because dragons, as you could speak to, they don't really get far unless they include others. And that's the nature of real leadership. That's why the emperor wore a dragon. Right? They wore a dragon not because he's trying to be impressive, although that usually is pretty impressive. It wears a dragon because the dragon is a chi representation of the capacity to understand what's in the heart of everyone. So that means like you can trust that dude because he actually knows what you're thinking. He or she, whatever ruler, they know what you're feeling. They know how to speak to the needs that that they understand that they're accountable to help you meet, right? So this is the reason why dragons are a symbol of leadership.
This is something that I had a conversation with someone, and I was talking to them about scalability, and because there's a lot of things with Total BS that I'm doing that has to do with scalability. And then they were talking about leadership, and I was like, leadership isn't scalable. Management is, right? So I think that's something that we're not seeing.
No, agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. In our culture, we're always talking about scalability, but we're also talking about thought leaders and all this other stuff. But so many times this stuff is made with the intention of scaling it, and then you can see how many different leadership seminars and webinars are happening all the time. But what we have to, I think, again, be cognizant of is the fact that a leader isn't a manager. A manager is oftentimes a person that can fill out the form, do the spreadsheet, follow the protocols, do the things. And so many of our so many of our managerial, so many of our leaders are actually managers. And because really what it is, it's to push forward an intention of like a corporation or a business or the views of this thing. And as long as I can bullet point them, then I can hire a manager and many managers to scale it and then to move that forward. But a leader is oftentimes the person that says, yeah, but maybe we don't need another one of, you know what I mean? Like a leader will make decisions that are oftentimes more creative and less unpopular. You know what I mean? But so we should identify that.
No, that's true. And you have to, I mean, I think a leader is actually an expression of the values of the culture in which is being enacted, right? So if we're talking about leaders in a merchant capitalistic society, we're talking about CEO. Right? Somebody who's actually there to like maximize profit and get a fat check. I mean, that's kind of the job of, that's the model that we're using for this idea of leadership. Or the other notion of leadership, like from an influencer scene, seems to be those people that know how to get other people's attention.
Which is oftentimes you can do that just by being a spectacle,
Exactly. And then you end up becoming a leader or something because enough people endorse you. And that's the very different understandings of leadership in this cosmology.
This, the Asian hate thing that's going on, I mean, I remember we did a talk on that over a year ago now, and we were talking about that, and no one really tuned in. It was actually a very poorly received thing. And then I made a course, but the thing that brought attention to it, and I wish people, the no one clears out a bar because two people were getting out along in the parking lot. The thing that brought people's awareness towards it, because again, no one wants to be like, oh yeah, there's potential of a lot of these things happening because cause and effect will tell you that this is happening, and therefore, like think for a second and feel and actually slow it down. But they had to wait to watch someone get killed on camera in order to actually consider this. Not the Asian. I mean, many people were working towards this, but the actual cause and effect behind it. We have to ask ourselves, like, how do you get that scalable or that attention? Which the idea is, I need you to make emotional reactions. I need to create a problem, and I need to offer a solution, right? So if we know that, we have been cultivated to emotionally react, and so therefore, do we even see anything that doesn't stimulate our emotions, right?
True. Yeah, true. That's a really good question in this day and age.
Yep.
Because, for instance, like from the standpoint of this tradition, there was what I really enjoyed about some of the dialogues in the time of crisis, where there's a lot of hate crimes against Asian people, is that there was this dialogue about like, Asian folks, they just, we're not going to do this anymore, but we typically we just, bear it and bear through it. We
Yeah.
don't speak
Yeah.
up, kind of thing. And I do appreciate the new generation that's like, yeah, no, fuck that.
Yeah. Screw that. Yeah.
And that's, in this day and age, is very valid. Like, and there's an opportunity there to make traction by doing so, because attention can shine on it, and that opportunity should definitely be taken. And at the same time, what was missed about that approach in the past was this kind of undying sense of dedication. Through that's the reason why you get there, is because I will bear all these things, because I know all my efforts go to my children. So it just reinforces the. I don't even necessarily call this Chinese. This is like an ethos that comes out of Confucian sort of ethic, because I'm not doing this for my benefit, whatever it is that I'm actually attempting to build. I'm doing this for the benefit of, like, even on other systems and cosmologies, 7th-generation thinking, for instance, is like, I'm not, every action that I do is in line with the care for this next 7 generations. So I see that, what we now kind of refer to as, the quiet Asian, like, don't forget, actually, this is perseverance. This is deep perseverance that's actually that should be actually celebrated, not in the face of abuse, like, but as an ethic of just like a general culture, is just like, oh, well, you can burn that cross, whatever you want, but I know where my resources are going. And like, I know that in 3 generations, my great grandchildren will be employing your children. So that is actually how the cycle of time works. And that's something that has always made, historically speaking, it's always made China's neighbors very nervous. Because if you have a whole population of people that know how to do that and are absolutely dedicated to the extent that they'll actually disregard their own personal needs, that is an unstoppable group of people.
That can be very terrifying to people that are radically individual. And
exactly, the myth of the model minority needs to be undone on multiple fronts, completely. Of course. And at the same time, even just the myth of the model minority is a misunderstanding of this notion of perseverance. It's complete misunderstanding of the notion of, because we're thinking of it as like from this overvaluation of a hyper individualism. That's not what this level of perseverance is. It's just a simple dedication to your family. And that's actually your main priority. So I actually do exceed, because by and large, I have the support I need to get what that I want to pursue. Number one, like, I'm not all on my own. And because I know I'm not all on my own, and that I've actually been cultivated and cared for adequately, then that also means I'm responsible to more than just me. So it's it's something that's, even studying these things for as long as I have and had the training that I've had, it's still not an easy thing for me to recognize, because of the culture that I was initially born into, and then that we still continue the messages to receive all the time about hyper individualism, which is why something like a dragon moon can be easily misunderstood, because everybody's like, oh, a dragon moon, time to go get it. And it's like, well, is it? It could be. It just depends on how you've cultivated yourself. There's actually and how you've like prepared and set up your resources and made alliances and built trust, in the second moon. That's a really key thing, because from the perspective of the Zhou-Yi or the Tongshu or any of these, this cosmology in particular, the accomplishments of an individual are minuscule, really, compared to the capacities of a group. Even if it's, a leader from this perspective isn't somebody who actually takes credit. And that's the main difference, right? Is that your leader, your actual leader in a particular group, if they're in their place of integrity, they don't take like half the profits or what have you. Like they're not actually interested in being on a magazine cover, because the dedication isn't to them being a leader. The dedication is to some goal or shift in consciousness or some particular innovation that would be of great, of most benefit to most people. And so that sense of widespread benefit is actually the priority, not like I did it, like
Well, this
like
is something
very
that
shallow. It's like grade school.
in influencer culture, what we have to realize is, influencer isn't leader. Basically, the leader is this thing, but what's really important in leadership are like the charismatic followers, right? Because they need to give the social buy-in for other people to be like, I want to be like that, right? So,
Right.
so we should just like again respect that and know that yes, I've called out to many because I know a lot of influencers and I work with a lot of people that have a lot of vast influence, and it's a big joke of mine every time like I'll be like, I don't want you to see this because you're just going to call up someone and you're going to get 10 of them for free and you're going to get paid to like talk about it, and like and you're never going to ever like call my buddy that just turned you on to it, right? So what I would always ask, I'm like, if you really want to be a leader, and you're an influencer. First, sure, get your money, talk about who is paying you, wear these polyester yoga pants, be natural, you know what I mean? And then at the end of that, tell me what you'd actually spend money on. Like, I want to know what you would buy, not who gave you shit and said, we're going to give you all this stuff if you talk about it. Not we're going to pay you to say these words, put their hand up your ass and move your mouth for you. But I want to know who you actually spend money, who you actually seek out. What are the things that because that's your creative mind. That's who you are, right? And and so I'm always asking that of those people, because like if you do have influence, like talk about the things you're really into, not just who you're paying.
Well, then I would go you one better. I'd be like, well, who is Simon and Schuster paying?
Yeah.
Where's who's sponsored by Penguin Books? And like what good paperbacks have you read? Like, I mean the whole system itself is founded on the wrong premise, which is consumption. Which is like that level of stimulation. Influencers are just, I don't know. I think you're right. They're actually sock puppets. I mean, they're just an extension of like that sense of popularity and Western popularity. And like, Ming Laoga, like he had many strong feelings about being popular.
Yeah.
Being popular really does not leadership really. And that's, but the dragon moon is going to affect all these sorts of things. And so basically what we're going on a chi level. In the winter time, chi goes down and in, right? This is a yin sort of movement. And so coming on this plateau, this is technically kind of the last moon of spring. The third moon is the last moon of spring, but it is a sort of pivot point in the season that takes you into summer, right? Into the power, and that sense of power of summer. And so the chi is now going out and across, right? So basically growth and abundance, is a chi condition of the season. So like it spreads across the land and encourages a sense of growth. And then from spreading out in that way, then spreads and then rises, right? So this is like kind of this is the pathway, essentially the essential movement of yang chi is to go out and up, right? And then as things reverse, they come down and in, right? So so expect, widespread impact. It's a very busy time, the third moon. But it's important to remember that we're still, as we move toward this kind of supremacy, that the prince gets crowned and then basically rises up to the throne. Right? That's the image. That we're still cultivating yin. Yeah. Because as when we go into winter, we say conserve yang, right? That's how we keep yang safe, so that way it comes out. We have something to work with, right? And And conversely, when yang comes out and spreads out, and comes up, then we are also managing the situation with yin. That's how we manage it. It's a bit like, imagining handing the keys to some 14-year-old kid who's never had a lesson. They're blowing stop signs, running over people, getting into accidents. This is a very good analogy, because when we go get training is yin. That's yin. So we're learning how to control and regulate and conserve the qi, yang qi, with yin. So there's still this kind of symbiosis always that's happening. And it's a very interesting in Ming's translation of the Zhou, or what's popularly known as the I Ching, in Hexagram 1, which is all about heaven. It's all yang, right? And so in the translation he says, when you play in the sky like a dragon among dragons, judicious timing rather than a show of force is appropriate. The key to the power of primordial yang is found in cautious preparation, conservation, and the management of yin. If you are prepared for such yang force, you can use it, not lose it, and avoid being abused by it.
Well, this is surfing. Yes, surfing exactly. And martial arts. It's like anytime you're around someone that can, like the novice, they go hard, they try hard. And then when you're wrestling or doing whatever, it's really just mechanical efficiency, timing, relaxation. Yep. And again, Ju means gentle. It means gentle. And but there's a tremendous, and the thing about it is you'll hear fighters, like beginners, and they'll be like, well, we go hard at my gym. I'm like, yeah, because you're around a bunch of novices. But when you get around the masters and the good teachers, you're going to wonder why they're just like soft all the time and they're kicking the shit out of you. And hard can be hard. It's hard body, soft ground, soft body, hard ground, right? And so like when your nature usually has some kind of, what is the thing I'm always saying? It's like, you better seek wisdom, because if wisdom finds you, it's gonna hurt. Like exactly. And nature has a very heavy hand, and so you need to be very. I'm doing 2 courses right now, and it's very much about yin, and because when we were going into winter, I was doing some more conditioning stuff and stillness, how to carry that. But the new course that I'm doing is journaling exercises, like how to like tap in and find your voice in
that's
writing.
Cool, because you're a really good journaler. Yeah,
dude, man. Y'all think I'm doing all this in a split right now? Y'all think I'm yoga? Man, I can journal. Like if we need someone to represent the United States of America in some sort of journal Olympics, I'm your guy, right? And
I'm your journal man.
Yeah, I got a wall of journals upstairs. So anyways, I'm doing like these journaling and writing exercises. And then the other one is just kind of a free thing on what it means, what the term relaxed alertness really means, right? Because relaxed alertness is what you're talking about, which is when you meditate, you're trying to create relaxed alertness. When you're fighting, you're trying to create relaxed alertness. Like, like I can put my hand on yours, I can move with you all the time, but if you move away, I'm not going to fall. When you're surfing, you're relaxed and alert. When you're like the true flow state is relaxed alertness. Like true situational awareness is relaxed. You're not in your phone completely unalert, and you're not hyper vigilant. You're just relaxed and alert.
But you still have to maintain some level of engagement, right? I still have to have some kind of a little bit of tension, kind of keeping a form, just to be able to keep that form, right? You need to have some sort of like actual conditioning in your body. And that's a yang qi. That's a facilitation of a yang qi that's surrounded by yin, is directed by yin, is given guidance by yin. And this is a very valuable understanding to have in this moon, because it being a water dragon moon, like it's impossible really to say what's going to happen, other than that it could be a very busy time, but also an intense number of transformations that are available for everyone. So in some ways, like it could be very easy to be blindsided. But it actually, having a water dragon, thinking about like maybe 2012, like where everybody was at in 2000, that was a water dragon year. So it speaks to, dragon is a representative of heaven, like, and it speaks to this sort of unpredictable partnership that we have with heaven, meaning that, like, yeah, big changes came. Um,
Yeah.
and I planned as best I could. I planned for a particular, scenario number A. This is what I was going for, and then everything got
Yeah.
swept aside, and then all I have is scenario B. But as it turns out, the skill set that I had was good enough for scenario B. So do I lament about losing scenario A? I would say you can if you want, but it's probably better to surf with it. It's probably better to just kind of continue on, because the next 2 moons going into a snake too, you might have one idea about how your year is going to go, and it could be completely different. And so I think that's something to remember, that you're not completely in control, of whatever it is you're trying to do. So the more you're able to diversify and be inclusive of other people, and expand and be in a mindset where you expand benefit, then you're able to kind of roll with the changes instead of just being so fixed about what you think you need or want. Probably not the best idea.
So this brings me back to the sword. Okay. Yeah. So you were talking about the ox is all about fundamentals, and when you are going into the unknown, when you are sparring, when you are performing, when you are in a moment of performance, it all boils down to the fundamentals. You can't predict what's going to happen, and if you can, then you're not actually going into that moment, right? And whether it's chess, whether it's poetry slam, doesn't matter. And this is what bothers me, because like Zach, he really likes those fundamentals: breath, relaxation, structure, and motion.
He's an ox. That's why.
Yeah, and those are the straight up fundamentals. And then the problem is this is art. It requires creativity, and it requires you to bring yourself to it. Yeah. And so many times we just keep collecting stupid shit and thinking that we're just going to put it on our backs. But what happens is, if you don't collect it, you actually embody it, and you don't have to carry it around anymore, right?
Right, exactly,
And so those things, breath, relaxation, structure, and motion, like, that's not just for fighting. Like, those are just fundamentals of creating opportunity. Those are fundamentals of, like, relaxed alertness. And so I'm really stoked that he did that, because then the sword itself represents a decision, right? The sword in warrior culture represents decision making that ripples not only through your life, but the other village that you just fought against. And then if you did it without honor, it actually might bring more bad. Even though you won the fight, it might bring more, like, all the surrounding villages would be like, that village is represented by a crazy person.
They have bullies. They have bullies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this sword, a lot of metaphor in this fucking thing. Woo! Thanks, Zach.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. What is it to achieve? What is your achievement? So if your mindset is for this needs to happen at any cost, then that's what you get, like, any cost. That's the end point of your action, is to incur, like, potential for retribution. Like, these things in Water Dragon Moon, expanding the vision, of your actions, highly favorable, to the most that you can, like, how do my actions in this world actually affect everyone around me? This doesn't have to be like some psychedelic trip, that seems impractical.
Health, wealth, love, buried or married. Like, okay.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that one. In terms of buried or married, like, it'd be the only thing I can really think of is to go back to, okay, who were the ones that were potentially most challenged in an ox year, right? So with dogs, you have to, like, make sure you're around the people that you need to be around, because this, in a dragon moon, you could feel unstable. So you really just don't want to make any big decisions. You just want to stay close, stay very close, to the people that matter to you, and ride it out, because, like, it really won't make a lot of sense until horse moon, what you should be doing. Just kind of one foot in front of the other, sort of thing. And same with tigers. Tigers also potentially challenged this year, as well as horses. That's why in the beginning we said, horses, sit tight, keep it mellow until, summer, until late summer, where you actually feel a bit more fluidity, but don't think you need to get a head start on anything.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work that way. And then everybody else, it's a little bit like, it depends on the scope, of like, everybody can be in a place of hypocrisy, and it's going to hurt, if you're lying to yourself, you're going to know, you're really going to know, if what you're doing is like in your integrity, because integrity is essentially the watchword. And integrity here doesn't mean like live your truth. It means, does it work?
Well, and integrity also
work?
is admitting when your truth needs to just sit down for a second.
When you're fooling yourself, like what kind of rhetoric are you buying into? I mean, we talk about this almost every moon. It's like, what sort of perspective are you operating with? What's your vision and mindset? Is it just like here, and are you caught up in sort of consumer culture? Like, what does it mean for you to influence people, to have you get free money and stuff, and and be popular? Like, that's a very grade school. I mean, you're basically going back to grade school. Like, who gets the juice box? Like, I don't know. That seems a little too shallow.
Yeah,
and will be very shallow.
There's a moment in my life where I remember my father. He was really ill, and I was going off on this pretty big job, and when I was a chef, and when I quit that job and decided to just be a musician, right? There are these moments where I was pretty thankful, because if I had been going into this one, so it was like, you'd be like managing chef for like the 2000 Olympics and this like 50,000 seat building in Sydney, Australia, and it was just going to be this monster gig. But then I was like, man, what saved my ass was going off and just becoming like folk singer. And I was talking to someone about that, and I go, and it wasn't the fact that like I was out there living my truth. The fact was, I wasn't beat up over the fact that I was letting anyone down, because I would say when my dad needed somebody, I had to go out and be with him because he was sick, and I had to stop everything. I was like, no one cares that there's just not that guy in the bar singing stupid songs about girls. Like, I realized, you know what I mean? I realized like in this moment,
you made the responsibility to your family your top priority. So
and also it was one of those things where like, yes, playing music to me personally is one of the greatest things that could ever happen. But I'm not gonna fool myself by thinking me playing music is important to you, right? So I realized that I just love doing it. It does make me nicer, and it made me love people and all these other things. It made me, but I was also free of knowing that, but this isn't important. So like,
I'm not making a huge difference in the world.
I'm not saving any lives. Yeah, it's like, yeah. So I think that's important for us to realize. Yeah.
You saved my life. You saved my life for sure, bro.
Oh,
like, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Those nights on those Wednesday nights, I still think about that. That was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely had some people like, talk, hey man, like that really got me through a lot. I'm like, but you'd have found someone else. And
that's true. Yeah. I mean, the appetite, what is it?
Yeah.
One of my favorite authors, it always says like, the reader has all the power, right? Mm-hmm. So like, so like the person that hears you, they're hearing the thing they need, that. Yeah. So it's good to recognize that kind of, that happens all the time when it comes to, doing readings for people. It's like, oh, their perception is like, hey, thumbs up. I'm really glad that that's working. Like that something's happening there for you, but that's not anything I can take credit for. That doesn't work.
So
like that.
If we could soundbite this, right? If we could just say, okay, we're going into
about
this
that.
Dragon Moon. Let's
double check. Double check.
Okay.
Double check your resources. Double check your ambitions. Double check, the kind of aggressiveness that you're going into, because otherwise it could be very anxious time. If you because if you're just like working this rising tide and you're like absolutely convinced of something that really doesn't have the integrity, then having patience, continuing to develop a sense of good timing, being open to that, that you're not in absolute control of it is a very good idea. Laugh at yourself,
Yeah.
because you're going to come into moments where you're like, wow, I didn't mean to swim out that far. And I think I just got caught up in the moment. So
Yeah.
let me just have a sense of humor about like what I thought I was actually doing. Because I think you've always said it's like, it's not important to be the first, just be the best. Right?
Yeah.
And like, I think that's a good, when it comes to the Dragon Moon, yes, Dragon is the sort of shepherding and heralding of the power of summer. It's coming. Like everybody will really feel it. And at the same time, like it's just one moon, like we still have the whole rest. We haven't even got to, the height of summer, so like be patient. In some cases, you don't necessarily need to press forward. Just let it pull you along. I think it would be the best part. The best thing you could do is like trust the tide. The tide's going to take you forward, I think, in plenty fast. Like, I don't think you need to paddle.
There's that moment in
go.
surfing where the waves come in. Like, you need to know where to be on it, right? Because sometimes if you paddle too fast, it'll just
then
suck you up and just dump you over. Or if you're going too slow and you're too far back and you're kind of, then it'll just pass you.
You miss it. Yeah, you miss it. So there is that kind of balance point where maybe you need to kind of like a little bit of a spurt to get to that point, but know when to stop. I think Ming always said this: cease with sufficiency. Like no one is sufficient, and then stop, and then let it kind of take you, and allow things to fulfill themselves, rather than to feel like you have to like be on top of everything. And just if you have questions on the maybe take a nap, like step back, ask somebody else, do something else, like allow the kind of creative process to emerge on its own. Like we're not talking about a Swiss watch here.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that I'd rather be first and the best, because it was like, it reminds me of, because that was a song, right? One of my songs. And there's this line, and it always starts, it's just like, it just says, the underdogs, the overlooked, the introverts, and the ashes of all the burned books, laughing while the wind sweeps them away. And it's just like, and then the next line is, it says, but who knows, it might feel good. And it's talking about that moment of like feeling this moment of like going in and knowing that it goes back to like anonymous service, and what is true leadership is like what you're doing behind the closed doors and all this other, it's like it's like it's really funny. And it's always talking about like cultivating yourself, because there are some things that might be a little scary, and so you kind of need to know who you are, because you might react to them. And there's another line in there about that reaction where it just says, it's the feeling that you get when someone's behind you on the street, when they're staring at your back instead of down at their own feet, and it's just like, but it's this whole moment where you're like, what the fuck is this person doing? But it's like, engage, don't just like react, because there's so much of that. Like, we're a reactionary culture, like we've
been giving all these prescriptions on how to surf, and also to understand that like most likely there's going to be a sea of anxiousness and a sea of reactivity that you'll have to surf, and not just your own, but the culture around us. I think about, remember last year, the last Dragon Moon and Snake Moon, it was a very intense time. We had a lot of protests going on. There's a lot less disorder that we're responding to. And part of the rat year was like this need to reinstate a sense of order and to get rid of excesses in order to actually reconstruct a sense of order. And so part of what the last Dragon and Snake Moons were very expressive of the sense of the roots of that disorder, right? So we had a lot of protests going on. And then this year, it's not to say that there isn't going to be disorder. Like we may be in a much less disordered society at this point, but there's still, I mean, everybody knows that historically speaking, there are major traumas to
Yeah.
contend with in this country. And so you're going to feel it. Like those things will be expressing at the individual, societal, and even at a larger cultural level. So, individually, we may feel those sorts of like sense of anxiousness about any number of hosts of things, and then also, more widespread as well. So, I think I don't know what the recipe is for that.
So I have my buddies, you haven't met them, but the guys at Evoke Tactical, also known as BA Tactical, BA Bay Area Tactical. Those
Oh,
guys,
okay.
I think people should, we were talking to them, people should buy some of their tactical flashlights. I was just out
Oh,
there
dope. I was
and
actually just thinking about getting one, actually.
yeah, I'm gonna go like I'll put links. They're just really cool. They're really good. They also offered, it's these two Chinese guys, super sweet, and they offered to help a lot of the elderly Chinese community with
Oh,
whether
wow.
it's self personal protection, domain
Right.
protection, and and but I was talking to some of the homeless guys and my and some of these guys were camped out over here on the street again. They kind of came back, so I went and
Oh,
asked them
okay.
to move again, but move in a way of like, hey guys, you guys are coming into this area now, and the city's cracking down, so let's all come up with an idea of where you can go that you're safe.
Mm.
And because actually these guys have actually our across the street neighbor, he actually asked them to stay there because they've gotten his truck returned. Two people so far in the past like 3 months have stolen his truck, and they found it both times. Not the cops, like these homeless guys found it, and they're
Mm.
badasses. And so I was talking to them, and they asked me because they've been attacked by a few people, and there's been a lot of killings and violence and stuff around here. So they're like, "Hey, we need to learn how to protect ourselves." And so I'm trying to get a deal on these flashlights because
Interesting.
they were like,
Yeah.
one guy made a homemade shotgun. He's like, I'm making a shotgun. And I was like, please don't do that because what you're realizing is when you shine that light on someone that doesn't want to be seen, you're giving them, you're looking at them.
Yeah.
And when that
Yeah.
1,000, 2,000 lumen light hits you in the eyes, you can't see and you know you are seen. And you're
Mm,
doing
mm,
one of the
mm.
things, one of the reasons why people will oftentimes go into violence is because, like, what? No one sees me anyway. Who gives a shit?
Yeah,
You
I'm
know
just
what I
gonna
mean?
get what I want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I
Hmm.
was talking to them about that, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that's smart." So I did a little thing, and I gave one of the guys one. I had an extra flashlight, so I gave it
That's
to him.
dope.
But
Let's support those people. Like that's
yeah,
the other thing that, we talk about the cautionary. Again, at the beginning, I was just like, when it comes to Dragon, it's like so much to talk about, because it is this sort of
yeah,
this splendor, like this
yeah,
is the rising tide of yang.
yeah,
So like it's free of those sort of yin, the sort of innate or environmental restriction. So
mhm,
environmental restriction is pared back, and so it's just this movement of yang out across the land and up, right? So
yeah,
it's how we approach that condition internal. Are we capable of internalizing a set of rules that allow us to work well together?
yeah,
If we've done that, then we can actually we can ride this and not be abused by it. We can not lose it. We can actually maintain a sense of momentum if we're not trying to go 1,000 miles an hour. So along with that comes with this idea of like things that we were talking about with the ox as well. Massive, massive acts of generosity that are possible. Massive,
mm,
like
yeah,
where people give half their wealth to some cause or another. There could be amazing levels of philanthropy that are available this year. And so the suggestion of my teacher would be get out and participate in that, even in the smallest ways.
yeah,
Just be like buy lunch for somebody, just small. Like doesn't have to be big
yeah,
to be generous. And when you do that, particularly on certain astrological days, the benefit like is like cascading like beyond our comprehension.
mhm,
So it's like every act we do, during this moon, we've been cautious about that. But all the positive things we do actually make a huge difference
mhm,
to our neighborhood. this is the time to do it. This is the time to actually be. You don't have to be a champion. It's not about being heroic. In fact, please don't. Like, don't try to be a hero. Just like be good. Be
Listen
good
to
people
Tina
to
Turner.
one another. Yeah,
We don't need another hero.
We don't need another hero. Like, it's because if you think you need to be a hero, you won't do anything.
Let's say, take a moment. Tina Turner.
Oh,
come on.
Gladly. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Please. Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna go listen to a lot of Tina Turner. That voice is so good. Oh my God. Yeah.
But it makes me think. Yeah. Chaka Khan.
Yeah. And you can even listen to the Dave Dondero song, "Real Tina Turner of the Times." Tina Turner. Dave Dondero had a really cool song called Tina Turner. And, Tina Turner's a badass. So yeah, man, that was
flat out.
That was a lot. Any words of wisdom you'd like to leave us with? Anything?
What makes my practice is that it's not who's watching me, it's when I'm alone. Yeah. It's when I'm alone. And that's
what are you doing? No one's
looking. Yeah, exactly. And so that's when you're actually in integrity. Is the things you do when you're alone. And let the things you do when you're alone inform how you interact with the world. Don't be bashful about that. Like, those values that are, if you actually cultivate what it's like for you when you're alone and what you feel in that time, then the world needs that. Yeah, the world needs to feel that.
I'm training a guy for a long distance race. I was talking to him about this, and I was telling him about the act of a lot of times, like, he was under the impression that he's like, I'm not doing this with my shirt off. And I was like, yeah. So much of fitness is around your vanity. But the true essence of this work is to expand your capacity to where when you are in your life doing whatever you need to do, the tool that is your body can do that or has the capacity to learn and retain that in order for this next moment. And when you understand that, then you're able to show up, and then you start looking different. You start feeling different. But if you're just training to look a certain way, you're a child. You're a monkey or a child just trying to, sure, it's everyone wants to look good, but like, when you train and you have capacity and you're actually doing the things that you can, and you can show up to the things that are good for you because you've expanded, then, and so I just always offer that to a lot of people, because I'm like, oh no, you're thinking that I give a shit about the way you look with your shirt off. No, what I care about is the way you walk into the room and you're not acting like some dumbass that's always worried about what they look like with their shirt off. You have capacity. You're actually helpful. You're useful. You're not, it's like we had a guy, it's like, you can walk out there. Yeah, you can contribute. You can show up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it's really cool. Like, we had a guy out on the rocks the other day, and super ripped muscle, right? But he was also really useful. He wanted to show up and do work, and I was like, I like your style, but he also had to step back to all the other just dudes that didn't look that good, because they can do anything, but they were in pain, right? But so they were in pain, so it's like we all started talking about like, hey man, let's we should balance this out, that wisdom with this wisdom with this, yin and yang.
As Ming has said, like, your capacity feels different under different opportunities.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's one of the things that's actually really important to remember always, but also in this moon in particular, because you may meet opportunities you did not expect, and understanding and then running into, my capacity is either challenged or it actually expands, in this particular context. And for some chi characters, that level of expansion and possibility is nervous making. That could be particularly, even though they may be capable of navigating it. Like, this is maybe the best month, say, for monkeys, and maybe their only good month. So, use it wisely. So some chi characters might feel well under that expansion, all these different opportunities, and some may just get into like pure anxiousness. Come back to what got you here. Come back to, don't take anything for granted. Come back to the supportive structures that you cultivated in the second moon. And if you do that and just focus on that and reinforcing those things, you should do well. If you develop those sort of life rafts, of like who I trust and who I'm working with, and that, and focusing on the relationships, and the content of those alliances rather than what they do. So, because what you do, it doesn't matter. Like the relationships that you foster and the sense of mutuality that you have in those relationships is actually the thing that should be guiding everyone.
Oh, thank you.
Take a bow, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instagram.
Genwu Astrology. On
okay,
IG.
Genwu Astrology on IG.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's there. And then this moon, by the next time we talk, I should have a website to point to as well. We'll be talking a lot more about those sorts of things. So,
yeah, everyone needs to get a reading.
BS.
I appreciate you. Oh wait, and everyone needs to get a reading. Everyone needs to
come for a session.
I'm doing some assessments also on sort of balancing out practice. There's a lot of things coming up, and I've just had to get time. I've just had to go in the woods for a minute. So
you're the best person to train with.
Happy Dragon Moon.
Happy Dragon.
Man. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, we'll do dumplings.
Yay! All right, man. Love you.
Okay, bye. Love
Bye.
you too.